Hi, marketers. This is Dos, and welcome to the Marketing Leadership Podcast. With me here is Tyler Durman, CEO and founder at Ignition Growth Consulting. And we will discuss building better B2B marketing operations for demand generation. I know you guys are ready. Some of you might be running agencies or even running marketing departments. So strap in and let's do this. Tyler, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dots. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. How are you?
Yeah, I am good. I am good. It's the sun is not smiling right now at me. But we will make sure to fix that by the time this video comes out. But yeah, other than that, it's been off. Yeah.
Awesome.
Uh, so let's talk about you. Yes, you are doing great, which is great. You also have a great set with a guitar on that side, which is great.
Thank you.
I'm trying to get into music after I'm done with marketing. I Fun fact: I have a TikTok channel where I whistle and hum at the same time.
Nice. That's impressive. How do you do that? I'm curious.
I don't know. It just started in high school or so. Was it in high school? Even before then. I just figured it out. It just happened. I'm like, what is
Wow.
this? And I came out of my shell and I thought it would be a good way to use TikTok.
That's certainly the kind of thing that'll go viral on TikTok. That's impressive. Nice work.
Exactly. Well, back to you. Your career, your role in the B2B marketing space, tell us, that story. And I've heard a lot of nice stories from others too.
Yeah, I'd love to. So for me, when I graduated from university, I went to University of Texas in Austin. One thing that was important to me was I really wanted to grow into a marketing leadership role, which is one of the reasons very interested in chatting here with you. So
Absolutely.
when I started as a SDR in an early stage startup. And so one of the mentors I had at the time said, really, some of the best marketers he knew were people who knew how to operate in a sales environment. And so I jumped in with both feet and did that. And so from there, I went into a product marketing role, still at another B2B SaaS startup.
Mm.
Did that for about 2 years. And then while I was at my most recent gig, Data World, I was lucky enough to be invited to be the first growth marketing hire that they had, then start and lead the growth marketing team from Series A to Series C. So almost 5 years. And so
Mm.
now I do that with pretty much take everything that I've learned and help B2B SaaS companies build growth marketing functions from the ground up, especially if they're around that stage and start scaling customer acquisition.
I love that. And you're right. I did about a year in the SDR role.
Mhm.
Rota, Rota.
It's
I
tough.
I fell in love with Pipe Drive. I was
Yeah.
I was sleeping and like, "Oh, Pipe Drive, Pipe." You know?
I know that. I know that. For me, it was Salesforce, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, yeah. So but those experiences are always great. Especially if you want to be that grow marketer that functions well in a commercial team. If I
Right.
will put it that way. But
Mhm.
still talking about you here, you have the Austin Growth Meetup. I
That's
would like
right.
to know what that is and if our listeners can participate.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you're in the Austin area, this is an interesting time to talk about it because we're obviously the episode will come out at a certain point in time. But
Mm.
for right now, we are in the middle of a hiatus and we're going to relaunch Austin Growth Meetup in 2024, where previously it was let's go hang out and meet and talk about what we're up to, what's working today, grab a drink, talk a little bit, and that was great. But something we've noticed is that we want to change the format up, especially as different people are moving around and go and working from home and stuff like that. So we're experimenting with different formats, like a dinner style format of people coming over to the house and eat barbecue, do something like that, or even a co-working kind of day where we get together in person and hang out and work together for a couple hours. So look for a new version of that pretty soon. But yeah, so I mean, meetups are how I got a lot of my big starts in Austin. So that was my way of
Mm.
giving back.
Yeah, yeah. Austin, the new Silicon Valley, yeah.
It feels that way. I mean, everybody's coming here. It feels great.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I get you. I get you. And also, we spoke off the mic about me traveling more, and I
Mhm.
will be in touch as well. So, uh,
Awesome.
stay tuned.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now to the topic here, and because strategy leads this podcast, let's start with strategy. You have what is called the 44x demand revenue funnel. And that is very critical to not just running marketing initiatives or campaigns, but even making the operations smooth. So, do you want to tell us how that process works Who are the beneficiaries of that in terms of maybe industries or things like that, and what are the benefits?
Absolutely. So, when I think about the demand funnel, it especially in a B2B environment, uh, it really matters to get that right from the very beginning so that
Okay.
you have a very solid foundation to build from. And so everybody talks about funnels in any other kind of industry from D2C or B2C or stuff like that. But in B2B, how funnels work and how they've worked over time is they start with especially if you're selling a more expensive or more complex product, they start with leads being generated, then sales qualifying them, and then those going into deals that will then close. And so when it comes to how do we benefit from a demand funnel or especially how do we use one, I think probably the best way to talk about that is how I put that together at Data.world. So the very short version of that is, and we can go into detail any which way, but we initially started with a community-led product where we wanted to get people on board to work on data projects together. It was a data community kind of thing where people could work on putting together reports for NBA statistics or for uh, geolocating certain things. And so it was very much grassroots and very much like something people could jump on board with and play around with, for lack of a better word. And so we had a hard time getting people to pay $12 a month for it because it seemed like very smart data people were using it, but we weren't really clearly solving a business problem at the time. And so we got called into a room one day and our CEO said, "Hey, we're going to make our move into the enterprise. We need to
Mhm.
repackage and position our experience as a SaaS product." And so we did. And when I knew that, I was like, okay, well, now we got to figure out how to build a demand funnel because we need to be able to measure how many leads we're bringing in, how many of them are qualified, how many of them are the sales team able to reach out to, and then how many of those will turn into deals that will then close. And so when you figure that out, then you can figure out things like what channels are good at producing leads that will then become those deals that close win over time. And everything builds upon that. And that's more or less how I describe the process of growth marketing is you have to start with measurement and then scale up what works.
Mm, mm. I like that, and I guess we'll be discussing some best practices or insurance for that your model there.
Yeah.
But before then, I'd like to explore some other things, especially in the operational side of things.
Hmm.
AI. When ChatGPT first came out, I
Oh,
tried
yeah.
to I tried this try saying ChatGPT 10 times without stopping.
Yes.
which
That's
is
funny.
which is funny, but anyway, it's been a revolution, and it's all mixed feelings everywhere. But in
Yeah.
our case, what do you think is the influence of AI technology? Because I know you're an expert in that as well, in
Mhm.
systemizing B2B marketing operations. Small resource, high impact, 80/20. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So I think the impact, I mean, first, everybody freaked out because it's like, it's everything that we thought it would be. It's starting to answer questions for us. It's in some cases could even be smarter than us pretty soon, if not already, because of how much information it can bring to bear.
Yeah.
But in terms of getting really tactical with marketing operations or growth marketing work, there are certain early applications that it's being used for, like assisting with copywriting. You see a lot of people using ChatGPT to help with social post production or things like Jasper. That's kind of an early use case for it, but I'm also starting to see more stuff like process automation and things like more advanced data analysis with things like, uh, especially there's probably I've seen some examples of this with the vision feature in the ChatGPT app where it can look at something and show you what the trends and correlations are in a data set.
Mhm.
And so I think those more difficult parts of our job will get easier, but also there's going to be a weird in between phase where people who don't have those technical skills will be able to pick up and run with those things. But it's kind of like the difference between knowing how your phone works versus being able to, let's say if you make a call, you don't have to know how the wires and stuff work together. You don't have to know how the satellites work, but you can just make a call, right? And so
Absolutely.
it used to be where you used to have to do like the rotary phone, or you used to have the person that was the operator and plugging phones in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now we're moving quickly to that make a call experience, or even tell Siri, "Hey, make a call for me." And
Mhm.
so all that knowledge of what it takes to do those things won't be there. So we could get into situations where, especially with ChatGPT hallucination of making some things up or getting something wrong. If you don't really know how to guess and check it, it may mess you up later and do the wrong thing for you. So I think that's the thing we have to watch out for.
Yeah, yeah. And I like the clinical angle through which you shared this as well. So I like that. But I'd like to discuss the antithesis of AI.
Yeah.
Trust me, if you're listening, I did not write that down.
There we go.
uh, uh, and that's just, you know, people process, right?
Mhm.
Before technology comes in, people process must work.
Mhm.
And in departments, in companies, and so on.
Right.
In terms of having better operations or better B2B marketing operations, what are some of the things that you've seen companies do that help them become more efficient at growth marketing? Just by working with, resources like people and just the process of doing things. Uh, I mean, a good example is your experience in sales, and now that is helping you to be able to better see the marketing for it that it should and work cross market with other members of the commercial team. That is one example. But what are some of the other applications or benefits of having the people or
Mhm.
teams and processes right before you now plug in technology? Because my problem with strategy and people is that they start with the tactics, they start with the
Right.
channels, they start with the technology. They don't start with the process, they don't start with the people. They don't answer all those W questions. Why? Why,
Mm.
what, when, and so on. And what so do you want to tell us about um, some of the benefits around making sure that processes and people are well aligned before we infuse tech?
Yeah. So my degree at UT was a communication degree. And so it was always important for me to be able to start with a process of conversation to make sure everybody's aligned in the right direction to go.
Mm.
And then before that, you have to figure out what the right direction to go is. And so I guess when it comes to uh how do we make sure that we're doing the right things, especially in marketing operations or in growth marketing, you have to take it back to the essentials. I almost said basics, but it's really the essentials of what are we trying to do? Who are we trying to go to market with? And then what's our strategy, as you say? Are we going to be very product led? Are we going to focus on solving the job to be done and bring people into that experience?
Oh, you know the job to be done, my man.
There you go. Yeah, that's right. So are we going to go that way and operate on that kind of go to market framework where we're not necessarily sending SDRs banging on doors saying, "Hey, we want to talk to you." It's let's let the product speak for itself and use the way we get the job done as the way to activate and retain people. Or are we doing more of an enterprise sales led motion of you have a business problem to solve. We want to help you save costs or capitalize on revenue opportunities. That requires a conversation and us telling a story of how you get value. And so agreeing on what business we're in, who we're going after, how we go to market has to happen first. And then most other things end up being easier from the processes of what does your demand funnel look like? Because it'll look different between those different things with the team you have in place, whether you need SDRs or not, or different kinds of marketers, like more growth marketing folks versus more demand creation, demand gen folks.
Mhm.
And yeah, so everything kind of falls from there.
Yeah, I like the last closing statements there because I'm starting to think, and I don't know if other B2B marketers are thinking about this. Do we still need SDRs? Oh, it's a
Mhm.
perfect question because you did an SDR. I did an SDR. So
Yeah.
I in an age where you can create, we are starting to create a content engine, right?
Mhm.
The things that people like Joe Polucci said in their books in the past are now echoed by people like Chris Walker in terms of making your content a revenue engine and building a media platform
Right.
for your brand. I all that I believe is almost doing the work in the B2B space of an SDR. So,
Mhm.
I guess if I will poll you right now, would you say the role of SDR is dead, or is partially dead, or is dying, or it depends on the business? I know it's
Ooh,
gonna say the last one, but
that's a great question.
yeah.
Um, And I think this answer actually has been the same every time I've heard it in my career. So even at the beginning when I was an SDR, I noticed that I was able to perform well because I took the time to research my target customer, my individual target customer, like looking at their LinkedIn profile, looking at what what their financial statements looked like and whether they were showing up at any conference talks and saying, "Hey, I've identified 3 priorities that you have. We can handle this second one. Do you want to talk about it?"
Mm,
That, even though it took more work, it made my message more relevant to them and ultimately helped me perform really well in that role. And so that's the kind of thing that really an SDR is about. It's not about plugging in a bunch of emails in Apollo and sending 1,000 a day. It's
mm,
about how do you make that human connection of you have a business problem to solve. I'm here to help you if you agree that there's a fit here. If there's not, cool. If there is, let's talk about how to move forward. And so I think if there's a situation where you need to close that gap with a human conversation, it's getting more interesting and maybe even in some ways easier because we're seeing things like AI avatars and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to take a long time for that stuff to be able to actually have that human connection and use human brain power to say, we have a solution for your particular problem. This is how we can solve it. Can we talk about that?
yeah, yeah. Interesting. AI avatars, you say?
Yeah, I sat in a presentation not too long ago where I saw that there are people that are able to like do kind of like deep fakes, but take videos and just scale them out with like people generating different numbers of videos. I feel like that may even be an SDR tool where people will record a quick video of like, "Hey, Dots, I wanted to talk with you about this on your website," and stuff like that. So that stuff is out there, and again, that feels like the easy button, but really the hard work is can you connect the X to the Y to make it equal Z in a business conversation to make it worthwhile?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, what Tyler is saying there is, can you connect the dots? Pun intended.
Yeah,
So,
exactly, exactly. I love that.
yeah, guys, I'm enjoying this. I hope you're enjoying it as well. And if you
Absolutely.
are, don't just listen. I want you to please leave a review on Apple if you're an Apple person, or Spotify if you're on the Android side of things. And what we decided to do is that for the few reviews that we have now, we'll be reading some of them. So if you want to get your reviews heard live, please make sure to leave a review. One of which here is called Great Insight. Most of them mention my name. I don't know why, but I'll keep saying this because everything I've received is by grace. Dots always invite industry experts, and it is great to learn from their perspective. Each episode is so valuable for marketing field professionals. End quote. Please review. You are not burdened to give 5 stars, but don't give 0 stars. We had Ross Simmons, and he said if you give 0 stars, you're in trouble. So please don't give 0 stars or 1 stars or whatever. Just give your honest opinion. I have one more question for Tyler, but we need to take a quick commercial break now. And when we come back, we're going to have a little fun called Dot Rapid Fire. Stay tuned. We are coming. Welcome back, guys. Like I said, it's the Dots Rapid Fire. It is the marketing court of law. So you say the truth, Tyler, in 3 seconds, 3 questions. The truth and nothing but the truth. So help you God. Are you ready?
I swear, yes.
Okay, good. Thanks for swearing too. Now, first question. What is your best marketing KPI? And I don't want to hear sales revenue. If I let me punish you for that, I don't want to hear average contract value. Okay, I'll stop there.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and, if I take your definition literally, a KPI, I would call that leads, because to me, I don't just look at leads, I also look at how many become qualified deals. So if I'm looking at more of a lagging indicator, I'm looking at qualified deals, but leads.
So do you say MQLs are still relevant? I think this is a good time to ask.
That's a good question. I think they're relevant if you define them to be relevant for your company. And so
Ah,
I
okay.
talk a lot about, the importance of making sure you know what it means. Does it mean something meaningful to your business? Are you doing ABM or not? That can change the answer. But if what you're saying is we create leads, some of them are qualified or not, that's a useful thing to track because anybody can fill out a form on any site.
Oh, interesting. That's a very unique perspective because now we have a lot of B2B influencers saying, I'm building an arc, guys. MQLs is
Mhm.
dead. I can say with authority live that 90% of B2B influencers are saying MQLs are dead. So thanks for giving that context.
Yeah, I prefer to have a nuanced perspective on that.
Yeah, yeah, love it. Second question: how long do you use social media every day?
The answer is too long. I'm one of those people that always has my phone open and is always looking at it, and just if I'm bored, I'll poke through it, but I don't wanna guesstimate what my screen time is. It's probably embarrassing.
I understand. I understand. That's good. That's good. Uh, Last question: what is your favorite marketing quote?
I think my favorite marketing quote, because I always keep it in mind and in different ways it becomes relevant, is, I don't remember who said it, but it's, as 50% of my advertising is wasted, I don't know which half.
Oh
And
yeah,
so
I
when I
remember.
think about all the stuff we do, especially when it comes to demand creation initiatives, there's a lot of conversation about how do you measure those things? How do you measure things like digital advertising? I know you had Rand Fishkin on here not long ago of how
Mhm.
much of that stuff can be inflated and be misleading in some cases. So at the end of the day, I prefer to look at more of the revenue and business metrics and what do I know is happening as much as possible of stuff coming in and how is it influencing one thing or the next, rather than just saying, rather than just saying that this works or this didn't. It's more, what do we know is working and is it driving the business in the right direction? Okay, let's keep doing it versus having 100% faith in something like Google Ads' conversions or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Brian just gave us so it's John Wanamaker.
That is it. That is
Yeah,
it. That's where
yeah.
I've heard that.
He's the one that made the quote. Yeah, yeah. I know. I like as a last question. I'd like you to dive deep into that last comment a little bit
Mhm.
more. Um, Chris Walker, the great man we all follow in B2B, talked about influence revenue.
Yeah.
And there's so much expectations from stakeholders, and stakeholders could be anyone there depending on who is listening. um how do you manage? First, you need to, I guess you've described a little bit of that problem in your previous statement, so maybe I'll
Mhm.
let that slide. But how do you advise us listeners to manage those situations? We've had Julian Juleman of Measure School, the great measurement guy, on this
Mhm.
podcast, and he talks about lobbying, internal lobbying, where you treat your companies and agencies like it's a political party. Tell us
Wow.
your own experience. How do you manage these kinds of expectations?
Yeah, that sounds dangerous having a company with political parties in it. Yeah, that's a lot for me, especially having worked in startups. Uh, but as far as managing source versus influence, this is a conversation we had at Data.world, I want to say every quarter of, especially when we had a new tactic that we wanted to try and we had some confidence that it would work, whether it be a different kind of virtual event or a different event that we'd go to. One thing that always bothered me is we would basically say, or I wouldn't say this, there were people in the room that would say, oh, we did this event and we didn't get that many leads in it, but it was great brand exposure. We had great brand impressions. Okay, but if that wasn't the thing you intended at the beginning, why you chose to sign the contracts, does that matter? Does it actually help you? Were the right people there to get those brand impressions? So all that to say, to distill it back down to influenced and sourced, I like to think of it as, does the, as far as sourced, did the person originate or did the deal originate from that tactic as far as you can tell from a last touch perspective? That could be a lot of buzzwords there, but did that thing seem to influence them creating a contact in your database or starting a sales conversation with you? You could call that sourced. If they happen to show up to other things, maybe they're a podcast listener in addition to that, maybe they are attending your webinars or looking at your other content or going to your events, then those things have influenced them. And there's some degree of influence those things have on moving someone forward and maintaining brand awareness and top of mindness.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't say necessarily that that's the one thing that pushed them over. And of course, big caveat of all that stuff being really hard to track and hard to know 100% if it's true or not. But you know what you know, and you make decisions with what you know as best you can.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Thanks for really breaking that down, which is great. I know we can go on here with this episode, but we have come to the end, and I enjoyed every single minute of it. If you're listening, I hope you listen to the end, and if you're going to share this with someone, tell them to listen to the end as well. Thank you so much for your wisdom, Tyler. where can future marketing leaders find you? We need the next Chris Walker.
There you go. I love it. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/Tyler Durman. So all is one word, TYLERDURMAN. And if you want to email me, you're welcome to reach out, tyler@ignitiongrowth.co.
Mm. Thank you so much for that. Guys, that's all we have for you. If you want to see more episodes like this one, interesting episodes, it's on my website, loves.marketing.com. There are other resources there as well. But if you don't like websites, no problem. Just check your favorite podcast channel or platform, Google, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, no longer Google Podcast. That's closed already. And search for the Marketing Leadership Podcast, where you will be able to subscribe and never miss an episode. I want to thank Content Allies and Desk Creek for their support. Also, feel free to check out my new venture, listennetwork.co, if you want to boost your podcast with predictable paid media marketing. Till next episode, connect the dots.
Thank you for listening to the Marketing Leadership Podcast, brought to you by Dots Loves Marketing. There will be links to any resources mentioned in today's show notes. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode.